Welcome to the Mohawk Valley Sportswatch. Thanks for making us part of your Sunday morning here. I am beyond excited this morning to talk to some local friends again. The Mohawk Valley Sportswatch is back. It's been a busy fall here for myself and my family. Been running around, chasing the kids around. Aiden was playing football. I was coaching. My daughter's been doing soccer all year round, so we've been all over the place, and I'm excited to have this show back as this was the show, my favorite show to do. They're all my favorite, but this one definitely is my favorite one here to talk some local sports. So we're back. And I got a great lineup here this morning for everybody tuning in. If you're tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or LinkedIn, if you have any comments, questions for the show, please put them in the comment box. I'll bring as many over as I can here this morning. And the guest lineup today in just a little bit, a longtime friend of the show, was one of the first guests I had on the Mohawk Valley Sports Watch. Scott Pitoniak's going to join me at about 9:10. We'll talk Syracuse football. They lost again last night. Steve Angeli went down a while ago, and it seems like the season has just spiraled downhill for the Orange. So we'll talk about some Syracuse football. If we get some time with Scott, we'll talk some Buffalo Bills football with Scott as well. And then at about 9:30, we have friend of the show, New Hartford head football coach Jim Kramer is going to join me. We'll talk his big win over Indian River for the second time this year. They opened up with a win over Indian River the first game of the year, and now they punched their ticket to the third straight trip to the Section 3 finals for Coach Kramer. And then at about 9:50, another long friend of the show, Whitesboro head football coach Curtis Schmidt, will join me as they punch their ticket as well to the Carrier Dome. So two coaches that are very familiar with playing at the Carrier Dome as they take their teams in there for another chance to win a Section 3 title. So that and more here this morning on the Mohawk Valley Sports Watch. Want to make sure I give a shout out to the Rome Free Academy field hockey team, Coach Mackenzie Welter. They are 18-0. They will play today in the regional final against Mamaroneck. That game's at noon. And I believe those games are being played at VVS High School here this morning as well. So best of luck to the Rome Free Academy Black Knights on chasing a state championship, which hasn't been done, I believe, since my sister's year. I can't remember my sister's year here in Rome, but they were 20-0 or 22-0 undefeated in state champs. And this Rome Free Academy team has a chance to do just that. Congratulations to New Hartford girls soccer. They punched their ticket as well to the regional final, I believe. I think they won yesterday. A lot of Section 3 final games across high school football next week will be at the Carrier Dome. The Class AA, Liverpool and CBA will rematch. CBA beat West Jenny 55-7, and then Liverpool beat CNS High School 20-0. So that will be the AA final. And then the Class A final, again, Whitesboro will play East Syracuse Manoa. Whitesboro beat Carthage on Friday night 38-12. And then ESM beat Fayetteville Manlius 31-6. So Whitesboro will play ESM for the Section 3 title. As I just said, we'll talk to Coach Kramer in New Hartford as they punch their ticket to the Section 3 final, except this year it will not be against Indian River, which would have been the third time in the last 3 years for Coach Kramer. But Indian River fell to New Hartford 37-34. It was a classic game on Friday night. It was a great game back and forth. And then the second game on Friday night, which was played at Corcoran High School, Institute of Technology 28, VVS 21. So New Hartford will play Institute of Technology. And that Syracuse team is loaded with skilled players. So we'll talk to Coach in more in here in just a little bit. The Class C final, two familiar teams that are very familiar with each other, and I feel like they are very familiar with playing in the Section 3 finals. The top seed Cazenovia beat Skinny Atlas 28-21 on Saturday, and then General Brown beat Little Falls 63-0, as Little Falls had upset Marcellus, the 3 seed, earlier in the sectional playoffs. General Brown will play Kaz. That game is scheduled for next Saturday at noon, as Cazenovia is the top seed. Two powerhouse programs that have been there for a long time. They will meet for the Section 3 finals. In Class D, Lowville beat Sandy Creek. If the stat man was on with me here this morning, he would say Sandy Creek, and he'd say where seasons go to die. Well, Lowville, the top seed, beat Sandy Creek. That game was Saturday at Westmoreland High School on that beautiful turf stadium that they put in at Westmoreland. Lowville, the top seed, won 30-0. And then the number 2 seed, a little weird not seeing Dodgeville as the top seed in Class D where they've been for so many years. They beat Cato Meridian 42-14. So Dodgeville and Lowville will play in the Class D championship game on Friday night. That game is also scheduled at the Carrier Dome. In the 8-man, the top seed, Frankfort Schuyler, which somebody's got to explain this to me. I've said it for the last so many years. I'm not really sure why Frankfort Schuyler is not playing regular 11-man football. I've seen this team. I've seen highlights. They do not look like they belong playing an 8-man football. It's just my opinion, not taking anything away from the kids because they've had a good season. And last year they won a state championship. They have absolutely destroyed teams in the 8-man. But tip your hat to Sequoia Valley, where I got my coaching career started as a head coach. And a great run that they had this year in the 8-man. They had beaten Thousand Islands 40-28. And then they fell just recently here on Friday night to Frankfort Schuyler 54-34. And then the 2 seed Morrisville Eaton, another familiar team of myself and my family. They beat Waterville 48-6. So the 8-man championship game is all set. That'll be played Friday at 2:00 at the Carrier Dome as well. It'll be top seeded Frankfort Schuyler, and they will play Morrisville Eaton. So that game is Friday as well. So all these sectional final games will all be played at the Carrier Dome, and hats off to all those teams for making it and having a great season this year in around Section 3 in Class A through D. So in just a little bit, we're going to talk some Syracuse football. The Syracuse alum got on me earlier in the year when the season started. I predicted Syracuse to go 4-8, and it looks like that's what they're trending towards here as they'll play at Notre Dame next week, which I do not see the Orange being able to win that game, but you never know. That's why they play the game. And then that would follow up the last game of the season. They would play Boston College, who is 1-9 or 1-8, 1-9, whatever it is, in Bill O'Brien's first year as the head coach. But Syracuse should be able to compete and play with Boston College. And I know we're going to talk to Scott here in just a little bit. I know that the Steve Angeli thing, when he got hurt, things kind of spiraled downhill. But the one thing I'll say, and I'm going to talk to Scott a little bit about, and people have been on me because I don't always talk very highly of the Orange, but I gave them their props last year. But I said Syracuse last year had a pretty easy schedule. This year they've had a tough schedule, but these were the games as Coach Medicis, Pags, and I would get on and talk every year, and we would do these predictions and pick their games. We'd say Syracuse always has to win the 50-50 games, not knowing how good Pitt's going to be, how good Georgia Tech's going to be, NC State, Wake. And you look across the ACC this year, and those teams are pretty good. Wake had a huge win last night on the road at Virginia, who still has a chance to play for the ACC title and get into the college football playoff. But the one common thing with a lot of these teams is, to me, they're getting better. Like if you look at North Carolina, I'm not a big Bill Belichick guy. You look at North Carolina where they started the year, they looked horrendous. And everybody's saying, well, Bill Belichick's going to jump to the NFL and he's not meant for college. And I still don't think he's really meant for college. I still think next year, if he gets a call from an NFL team, he's gone. And don't be surprised if the Giants fire Brian Daboll and Bill Belichick gets a call to go back home to New York and coach the Giants, maybe. But North Carolina has gotten a lot better. And I know people say, well, they beat Stanford. They beat Syracuse. But when you look through the last 3 or 4 games, they were in the game against Virginia. They had a chance to win. They should have beat Cal, came down to the last play. They have routinely gotten better week over week. They have a good chance because now they'll play the North Carolina teams. They'll play Wake, and I think they end with North Carolina State, which I think are 2 winnable games. And Wake Forest is playing a lot better this year. But they've gotten better. When I watch Syracuse play, and I know there's a lot of Syracuse faithful that are watching this show saying all he does is badmouth Syracuse. I don't always badmouth Syracuse. I'm not a Syracuse homer like a lot of people are around here. I'll pull for them, but I don't go crazy if they lose. But I'm more disappointed because I don't think a lot of these guys have gotten any better as the seasons went on. I think they've trended in the wrong direction. I think Fran Brown's a hell of a salesperson. I think he does a really good job talking up the program. I think he does a great job selling the program to recruits. We all know he was a really good recruiter. And it is nice to see on Twitter and social media when you see a lot of these big name players that are now saying they're going to flip, and instead of looking at Georgia, they're going to look at Syracuse. Or instead of looking at Florida State, they're going to look at Syracuse. So I think that's really cool to see. But at the end of the day, I just don't know. And listen, if Angeli's playing this, we might be saying, well, geez, Syracuse is 6-2. They had the big win over Clemson, which doesn't look like too big of a win now because Clemson has looked horrendous this season. But they got the win last night over Florida State. And I like Dabo Swinney. I think Dabo should go elsewhere. I do. I think Dabo Swinney should go elsewhere, and I think he should start over somewhere. I think his time's kind of run dry in Clemson. The knock was he hadn't dipped into the transfer portal. He's not up to date with the NIL and all that stuff. I like Dabo. I've always liked Dabo Swinney. I just don't know if it's meant to be right now. He stays at Clemson. All these big jobs open. Go get a fresh start somewhere else. That's what I would say. Go get a fresh start somewhere else. Well, we'll see what happens with Dabo. But again, Syracuse, we'll see. They'll on Notre Dame this week, who I think is one of the hottest teams in the country. I think Marcus Freeman's a star in the coaching field. I think Marcus Freeman, if I'm all these other big schools that are open, the Floridas, the LSUs, I call them up and I say, how much do you want? I put a blank check on the table and say, fill it in. It's your job to lose. He's not leaving Notre Dame. And I just saw this morning Lane Kiffin signed another extension. I think he's going to make $13 million a year to stay at Ole Miss. Good for Lane Kiffin. If you saw the story on Lane, personal life is in a happy place, and I think that should be noted across college football. You don't have to chase the money. These guys are all making really good money across college football. $13 million to $16 million, or $13 million to $17 million. $3-4 million to you and I means a lot. To those guys that are making $13 million, why go chase another 3 or 4? Start over, where if you don't really win within your first 2 to 3 years, you're gone. Lane seems happy at Ole Miss. He's got Ole Miss competing to be in the playoff. He's got them competing for a national championship. I think Lane made the right decision. You look at Kurt Cignetti and the job that he's done in Indiana in just 2 years. Think about this for a minute. Kurt Cignetti, who coaches football at Indiana, who people will say is a basketball school, has turned down probably every job in America. He's probably turned down Indiana, or he's probably turned down Penn State, Florida, LSU, all these big jobs that are open to stay at Indiana. In my lifetime, and I'm sure everybody on here would probably agree, if this was 10, 20 years ago, would you ever see a coach from Indiana turn down a chance to go coach at Penn State? Who, by the way, they just beat. I thought Penn State should have beat them, but that was a hell of a catch and a hell of a throw by Mendoza at the end of that game where the kid got his toe down to beat Penn State. And tip your hat to the kids at Penn State for playing hard. That stadium was 107,000 people. That stadium was full. Good for the people down at Happy Valley, because that place was rocking for that game against Indiana. But tip your hat to a lot of these coaches that are staying put. I saw Matt Rule at Nebraska signed an extension. He's going to stay there. What he's built at Nebraska, still hasn't won a big game, but he was rumored to be the top candidate, played for Joe Paterno at Penn State. So I for sure thought that Matt Rule was going to be a candidate there. He decides to stay. Cody's saying Dan Lannon turned down Alabama. I don't doubt that. But those guys are making really good money, and the programs are in really good shape. Why leave? Why leave? Doesn't make any sense to me of why anybody would want to chase those down. But I think when you look at guys like Cignetti, in the 2 years, and I said last year I thought Indiana had a pretty easy schedule. Now, people are going to say, well, they almost lost to Penn State. Still Penn State. In the preseason when Penn State was number one, that would have been a monster game, but it's still Penn State. To go on the road and beat them at their place in front of 107,000 people is still a big game. Indiana's going to play Ohio State for the Big Ten title game, and we'll see how good Indiana really is. The Mendoza kid looked pretty good yesterday. I'd probably say to me, it's probably Julian Sain, the quarterback for Ohio State, who I hate to say that too loud to my wife upstairs, the Buckeye fan, but I think Julian Sain would probably be my pick right now as the Heisman Trophy winner. Mendoza would probably be right there too. But I want you to go Google a kid, and his name is slipping by me, and I was looking at it last night. The quarterback for UConn has thrown like 26 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, and I don't think Jim Mora Jr. gets the credit he deserves. In my eyes right now, if I had a coach and a vote for a coach for Coach of the Year, let me see. I think Scott might have been having. Let me see. It's not letting Scott in. Let me, Scott, if you're listening, I'm going to try to send you another link here in just a minute to see if we can get you on here. So bear with me. But I forget the kid's name. If you actually Google it, and you look to see the job he has done this year, and I don't think I would have ever thought um, where I would see UConn. Let's see if we got Scott. There he is. I can see you, Scott. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes,
Hi, how we doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Sorry about those technical glitches there. I'm technologically challenged. Just
Hey,
ask my wife.
you made it on, no problem whatsoever. I appreciate it.
No
Scott, I
problem.
had to have you back as the first guest to back on this show because I believe you were one of the very first ones I had on many years ago. So I won't say how much I've aged over the years, but I couldn't be more excited to have you.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be on with you. And anytime I told you I'd be happy to do it, and I'm honored to be one of the original charter
Yep.
members.
So Scott, a lot of the Orange faithful were on me before the season started because I put my predictions up, and I feel like when we talk Syracuse, we've talked a lot about the same things over the year as far as the league goes, where I would always say Syracuse would have to get the 50-50 games, right? We never knew what Georgia Tech, the NC States, the Wake, those teams are going to be. And this so happens this year, those teams are playing really well. I had predicted Syracuse to go 4-8. Many believe, and I would probably be on that wagon if Angeli was still there this season offensively, probably would have been a lot different. But Scott, I'll ask you this question. I've been more disappointed that the team hasn't gotten any better week over week. And that to me, it falls back on the head coach. And I like Fran, but the team just hasn't gotten any better.
I think it's, I guess what we've discovered, Rock, is as you well know, the quarterback is such an important position in football. It goes beyond just the value of one position. It's disproportionate in value. And when Angeli went down, essentially, now that you look back at it, Syracuse season went kaput.
Mhm.
They didn't have an adequate backup. We all thought Ricky Collins, who had been a highly regarded recruit at LSU, and we know LSU's recent
Yep.
history of producing great quarterbacks, Joe Burrow and Jaden McDaniel and so forth. But it's become apparent in these 6 games that Ricky Collins just doesn't have what it takes to be, I think a quarterback at, a Power Four conference, team and stuff. He doesn't process really quickly, and I will cut him some slack. He was thrown in there, but he had the entire spring before Angeli. People
Right.
forget Angeli was not signed by Syracuse until after spring practice. So, Ricky Collins had all the reps in the off season, and then Angeli comes in after the spring, obviously, and then we were told there was a battle, and it's clear that Angeli is a far superior quarterback and stuff. So the disappointment is that none of these guys, including some highly regarded recruits at quarterback, that they were able to get them ready. And again, Collins, I mean, I just don't see it in him, Rock. And so you don't have a quarterback, and that has a disproportionate impact on everything else. Essentially, what Syracuse has been these last 6 games, Rock, is they can't play complementary football because they really don't have an offense. Um, the defense has shown some flashes here and there, but they wear down because you can't put that kind of pressure on a young defense and stuff. So, yeah, there's been some disappointments there. Fran, I cut Fran some slack. He's in his second year as a head coach.
Yep.
He made some mistakes. There's no question about it. And to be honest with you, most programs, whether it be college or in the NFL, you lose your starting quarterback, you're usually cooked. I mean, if the Bills lost Josh Allen, I'm sorry. They go from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender to not being one. To being a good team with still some very good players around, and you got Mitch Trubisky and stuff. But so it's unfortunate because I really think that we really saw Angeli coming on, and I was like you. I thought this is a 4 or 5 win team going in, not knowing how good
Yep.
Angeli would be. And then I raised my expectation level. I really believe that if Angeli had not gotten hurt with the Achilles injury, that Syracuse would have been, contending for 7 or 8 wins this season. I really think they could have, but it's just it's all gone down the tubes. And now it's clear. You may have seen that Fran sent 4 freshmen out there as his game captains yesterday. So what does that tell you? They're in total rebuild mode right now, and he's looking at 2026.
Yeah, Scott, and I believe they've played over 30 freshmen this year, which I think is one of the most in the country. Matter of fact, I think they said third nationally, where they played 34 freshmen. 19 different players have made their first career start for Syracuse. I thought the schedule last year was set up well for Fran Brown or whoever got that Syracuse job to come in and have a really good year in year one. And then year two, we just didn't know what to expect from Angeli, like you said. But one thing I look at is, I look at some of these ACC teams, and we can take Bill Belichick in North Carolina, who I thought they were an absolute disaster throughout the season. But you look at North Carolina the last 3 or 4 weeks, they've gotten better. And I just saw where they have the 16th ranked class nationally coming in there. So it looks like they're going to get things turned around. I'm just a little bit more disappointed in Syracuse that I haven't seen a player improvement by a lot of these guys. And maybe it's just overlooked because of the different quarterbacks that have played and the focus has been on that position for Syracuse. But what's your thought on some of the other positions?
I mean, their strongest position going into the season was their wide receiving core. I mean, but if you can't get those guys the ball or whatever, then that negates that, right? So I've been disappointed there. I've seen some flashes on some defensive players and stuff. They were going to be in a rebuilding mode with their defense, which only exacerbates the problems that they're facing by not having an offense.
Yep.
There's it's clear that we didn't see improvement not only among the young players, which is understandable. If you're playing true freshmen in a Power 4 conference, you're in trouble for the most part, unless you're Georgia or LSU or Ohio State or whatever that can reload or whatever. But I still put the onus is on Fran Brown. Won 10 games last year because of Kyle McCord. Let's be honest.
Yep.
And again, that's a quarterback. There was a quarterback who was a great college quarterback. I mean, and Angeli was showing signs of picking up where McCord left off. And then when he went down, I guess my big criticism would be again, Ricky Collins, you had him, you paid money for him. He was going to be your number one guy, and he's just looked dreadful. And a criticism I would have of Fran is that, now we hear this past week saying well, we didn't really do a good enough job as coaches in terms of, tailoring an offense for him, because here's a guy who could move. I didn't understand from the start. I was saying to a friend, I was at a couple of those games, I said, why is he in the pocket? Why is he? Here's a guy who should be running RPOs, who should be you should be rolling him out. And they didn't do that from the start. So that's a big mistake on his part. But again, I know a lot of people are, Syracuse fans are so impatient. They were spoiled, having a coach come in and win 10 games right off the bat, which hadn't been done since Paul Pasqualoni inherited Coach Mack's, great teams that he set up. And so now, the fall to a 9-loss team, this very well could be. I mean, unless they beat Boston College in the battle for the basement of the ACC. It's disappointing. And Fran hasn't handled everything well. He's shifted things around his coaching staff during the season. That's never a good thing. So he made some mistakes. But again, for people who want to fire him now, I mean, that's ludicrous. So you're just going to fire him. And I mean, he's a good recruiter. He's got stuff to learn as a head coach. And kids buy into him. He connects with kids. But, it's a very, very young team, and they have not performed well. And he's got to kind of hold it together. And there's going to be a lot of changes that, you're going to lose a bunch of kids, including kids from your recruiting class. And they have a very good recruiting class coming in, a top 25. So you got to give the guys some more time. We all make mistakes early in our jobs and stuff. I mean, it's just it just doesn't. Success is not linear. It's not a straight line. Never has been.
Scott, I was just talking. I said, this coaching carousel that we have, I said, I never thought I'd see the day where the coach at Indiana probably turns down Penn State and all these big jobs. And, he's making good money in Indiana. But when you look at this coaching carousel, are you surprised with all these high buyouts and, these big universities moving on mid-season from all these coaches?
I'm surprised, and I'm not surprised, because we're in a totally different era now. We're in professional football. Let's be honest with what we're seeing, with college football. And, you've got kids that are not going to stay there, 4 years. I mean, I see kids now, you're watching a college football game. They said, yeah, last year he was at this school, and the year before that he was at that school. They're on their third school. So I guess I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed. I don't like the system. I think it's kind of I know it's a big business and everything. And, donors are going to write the $76 million check or whatever it is for, Jimbo Fisher or James Franklin or this and that. But I don't like it, and I don't think anybody does. And I'm going to tell you now, and it's not a popular opinion, but this isn't getting resolved, this chaos of kids jumping every year and so forth, and coaches getting bought out or whatever. This isn't going to change until there is some rules in place. And you're not going to do that until you have a players union, then that whatever the governing body of college, big time college sports is, because the NCAA can't do it anymore. They're going to have to negotiate a collective bargaining agreement with the players. And so then you come up with things, Rock, like you're only allowed one transfer, let's say within a 3-year period or whatever, unless a coach leaves. If a coach leaves, all bets are off. You can go transfer to another school as a player. We can't have this every year. Like in the NCAAs last year, I think we discussed this. A Cinderella team makes it to the Sweet 16, they lose. The day after, their entire roster is in the transfer portal.
Yep.
So we gotta bring some order to this chaos. And again, people aren't going to like that. Wow, you're going to make the players well, the players are getting paid. Let's be honest, okay? Players are getting paid and often getting paid, huge sums of money. So we got to get, it's a wild, wild west right now. We got to bring some order to this, or else it's just going to keep on.
Scott, who would you say right now is your favorite to win the national championship? You lean in one way?
It's always tough to go against Ohio State. It really is. I mean, they're loaded. They got a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback. I mean, I would like to see Indiana. I love what Cignetti's done there. I would love to see them, and they're going to meet. They'll meet in the Big Ten championship game. That was an incredible win, or avoiding a loss yesterday by Indiana. I mean, what a catch! Maybe I don't know, one of the greatest catches I've ever seen in college football.
Absolutely.
To be honest with you, that toe tap was just unbelievable to win that game. I don't know how good is Texas A&M. I don't know. They're awfully good. Notre Dame's put themselves in a position to, be a factor again. But, can they really match up in a national championship game against an Alabama or, an Ohio State? Do they have the speed and the athletes that those programs have and the depth. They haven't proved that, right, in other things. So I don't know. I mean, it's not a sexy pick, but Ohio State to me seems to be the you know the team to beat, the champ to knock out.
Well, Scott, my wife's probably upstairs. I don't know if she's listening to me, but my wife's probably smiling ear to ear because I think, as you know, my wife's a big Buckeye fan, and of course, I'm the Michigan fan
Right.
that's got to live with her,
Yeah.
listening to how good Ohio State is. But I would agree right now. The only thing I'll say, and I'll end it with this, and I'll have to get you back on so we can talk Bills. I know we'll talk Syracuse hoops with you throughout the year as well. I got a couple of the high school coaches coming out with me shortly, but I will say this. I'm not sure. Ohio State played Texas that first game of the year. Now, Texas has played better. I'm not sure Ohio State's schedule has been as strong as what it's been with Penn State being down. They don't play Oregon. They'll get a chance to play Michigan at the end of the year, which Michigan's had their number. But I think this year, well, I think last year was a fluke that Michigan beat Ohio State as a 4-touchdown dog. But I don't think their schedule's been as strong as some of the others.
Yeah, I agree, and I believe Indiana is not going to be, concerned about them. I think they can go toe to toe with them, and then who knows? They could wind up meeting again in the playoffs, right? Because they're going to both go. Whoever loses that game is going to the playoffs. I mean, as well. And again, that would be what a Cinderella story. The job that he's done in just such a short time. You know, they're no longer a basketball school, Rock. They're a football.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that shows how the world is topsy turvy, right?
Scott, he had one of my favorite lines when he said, "All I do is win, Google me." That was one of the best lines, but you know what? Good for him. He's changed
Yeah.
that program around, and he's finding a way to win games, but I think that NIL and that transfer portal always helps. We can go get some players. So, Scott, listen, I appreciate you jumping on. We'll do it again soon. We'll talk Bills one segment, some Syracuse hoops, but I appreciate you coming on as always. Good to see you.
I'm being on there with you.
Appreciate it, my friend. Enjoy your Sunday. Go Bills today.
Yeah. Yeah. Should be a good one.
See you, Scott.
Take care.
So that was Rome Sports Hall of Famer Scott Pitoniak, and we're going to see if we can get Coach Kramer on here. Let's see. Coach, I think I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you just fine.
Well, that's probably a good thing for the audience then.
So we're good to go if you're good.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, cool. Well, Coach, listen, I appreciate you taking the time here this morning, and congratulations on punching your ticket to yet again another Section 3 final against a different team this year. But let's talk about the game against Indian River. It's tough to beat them once, but you guys were able to get them twice in 2 really good games.
And Corey does a great job with them, and their program is top notch, and they challenge you in so many ways. So obviously a great win for our program. Got to flip the script now and get ready for a very athletic ITC team. So we've turned the page and are focused on them, but our kids are excited.
Coach, I was going back and I was looking at some numbers for you. You were hired back in, I believe it was 2017. You took over a program that had won 13 games. And since you've been there, you've now turned this thing around where you're, again, I'm going off some numbers here in stats, 61-21. You've now been in the Section 3 finals. This will be your 3rd consecutive year. What's been the biggest thing for you since you've been there turning this program around?
We have a great coaching staff. We've stayed together for a while now, so really proud and excited with the guys that I work with every day. And we got great kids that buy into what we're doing. They know to be successful. There's different types of the players. We got some 12-month football guys. We have some dual sport guys, and I think that's the biggest thing right now, especially in this area. Like, you got to be able to work with kids that play other sports, and you need them to be successful. And, I think we got a good mix of kids. We got a great group of families. Our lower level coaches do a nice job. Our youth coaches do a nice job. So it's more than just me. It takes a collective group, and, we're excited where we are, but certainly not satisfied with where we are.
Coach, your game the other night, I was actually sitting at the Elks Club having a few cocktails, and I had your game on my phone. and I was screaming and yelling at the end of the game. I'm like, all right, just run this ball, run the clock down a little bit. Let's punch one in here at the end. I almost felt like whoever had the ball last had a really good chance to win this game. But what a fun game to watch.
Yeah, it's back and forth. That seems to have been the storyline, when the two teams, Indian River and New Hartford, have played the last couple of years. But you certainly did not want to leave them too much time, but needed to make sure we scored a touchdown. I'd be lying to say that I wasn't trying to score on first and second down, and that certainly wasn't a plan. They made us push to third down, but our kids were composed. Our kids were believed in what we were doing and went out and executed, and all credit to them.
Coach, I had to surprise you here with a guest because he had a few questions for you, and he's on camera. So, Nolan, you should have helped Dad out a little bit of getting Dad on camera.
I'm in a different room than him.
But Coach, I had to bring Nolan on because I know it's special to have your son down there on the field with you. But I think he's got a question for you. Nolan, what do you got for your dad?
I prepared this yesterday with the help of Pop. This week, you'll game plan for ITC for the second time this year. How does the game plan you had the week of September 19th when you played them in week 3 to now 2 months later, assuming they've changed their stuff and you changed a lot, does this game plan differ from the week 3 to the sectional finals?
Geez, that's a good one.
That's a good question.
It is a very good question.
I think both teams will go back and look at that contest at week 3 and pull some of the positives, but I think we struggled in some short yardage situations. I think they did a good job of rushing our passer. We only had 7 points till late in that third quarter. So we have to find more creative ways to get the ball in our guys' hands and to run the ball a little bit more effectively than we did. They're a big team up front. And then obviously on their side, very athletic quarterback, nice playmaker at wide receiver. It makes for an interesting thing. When you play a team twice, I've told you this before, when you play a team twice, sometimes you have some different game plans and wrinkles that work the first time. You got to be willing to go back and tweak them. And so that's what we're trying to do right now. And I think we're a better version of what we were week 3. And I know they're probably saying the same thing.
Coach, I was going to ask you a question with this team. It seems like you got a lot of upperclassmen with seniors and juniors, which always helps. And, with experience coming into a year. And coming off the last couple of years where you guys have gotten to that game and fell short, how much does this leadership on this group help you guys out heading into this season and bringing you back to a Section 3 finals?
Yeah, luckily for us, we've got a couple of guys that have played an awful lot of football. So what's nice is when you play a team like Indian River, they've played them before. When you talk about scouting reports, they have an idea what you're talking about. It's not new to them. When we're going to talk tomorrow in our team meeting about what it's going to be like to get off at the Dome, we're going to have guys that have gotten off the bus and gone in the Dome, so when we come out of the tunnel, the excitement's going to be, through the roof, but it's guys that have done it before. They know what to expect. They know what the logistics of the day and the week are going to look like. So it's helpful. And, we're just going to have a business type approach. We're going to enjoy the moment of this week, but we have a business type approach of what we're trying to do. And, I know our kids are eager to go out and compete.
Nolan, I know you got another one for Dad. What do you got?
No, I was just asking him, how important is that DOFO position?
So Nolan's graduated from water boy to director of football operations this year. So, he's a big timer, and I know it's a proud moment when you get to share it with the family, and that's obviously important to me. And I know he enjoys being out there. Kids enjoy having him, but I think that speaks volumes to our program. Like our kids like to represent our community, our school. Our young kids look up to them. Our kids are the first to be at a Pop Warner game. Our kids are the first to make sure that they're high-fiving the young kids and in the community. And that makes it important for when they go out and get cheered for and the roles reverse. So I know Nolan's excited to be down there and vice versa. The kids are excited to have him. And it makes it, like you said, what's some things that have led to our success? The culture's led to our success. People want to be there. People want to be around it. And like to think we have a fun environment. We have an inclusive environment. We're a place where, I enjoy doing it. And, our coaches come every day excited to coach, and our kids really do enjoy practicing. I think that's something that's probably lost. We practice really hard. We push them to the limit in practice, but they show up every day and they want to consume more in all three phases of the game. And those are kids you want to be around.
Coach, I want to talk to you a little bit about your senior quarterback, who I think is one of the best, if not the best in the area, and then your senior wide receiver in Peyton Way, who is the best receiver in Section 3. Talk to us about how special those two are and the connection that both of them have on the field.
Yeah, they're close friends. They've played together for a long time, and Johnny, having a kid that you've worked with and brought him up as a freshman. He was the JV quarterback, and I would bring him to the varsity games. And I remember talking to his family about this. Like, I'm not going to put him in a game, but I need him to be on the bus. I need him to be in the locker room. I need to have him see how I, give corrective feedback during the game and how the quarterback handles that. And each year he's just gotten more comfortable and better, and he wants the ball in his hands. And I think, what's most important in his maturation process is, I put the ball in his hands, and we threw an interception in overtime last year, which he made the correct read, and he threw a good ball. The other kid made a heck of a play, and I think what was important, this past Friday night is 2 minutes to go, and what's your mindset? And he's like, let's go. Like, we're ready to go. I'm ready to go win this game. So he's got a winner's mentality. He's a competitor. His relationship with Peyton is exceptional. Peyton's a fantastic football player. I mean, what I'm most impressed with Peyton is his buy-in to all three phases of the game. He wants to play every down defensively. He wants to play offensively. We've moved him in a ton of different positions to try to get matchups for him over the course of the game. And he's a we over me guy. He knows he is one of the better players in the area and one of the better players on the field each night. And he wants to do what's best for the team. So I think that those two and their leadership qualities just set the tone for everybody else in the locker room.
And Coach, how much I know a coach's preparation is, it's game to game, but being it's the game this week, is your preparation as a head coach any different this week going into this game?
No, you know me very well. I'm a pretty routine oriented guy.
Yep.
You never look ahead. Didn't look to Indian River until South Jeff was taken care of. Didn't look to what might be the next game until that one's taken care of. And I think, look at the opponent's offense on one day, look at the opponent's defense on the other day, and special teams, and just try to day by day approach, try to give our kids the best game plan possible. And I think what's good with our group is we have a game plan ready for Monday. We're willing to make tweaks on it throughout the week, but it's all about teaching the kids. It's that old teaching adage. And Blaze over at Utica was really good about saying this, was saying that coaching is teaching. And it's not about what I know or someone else knows. It's about what those kids are able to soak in and comprehend and do at full speed with confidence. And that's what we try to do during the course of the week, is just give them as many tools in their toolbox as possible. So when they go on the field, they feel like they can run through a wall.
Coach, I was telling Nolan last night, because I wanted to surprise you and bring him on, but I said we're going to come to the game next weekend. But how do we get a New Hartford shirt? You got any shirts left over? I can get a New Hartford shirt for the game next week.
Yeah. I know Curtis is coming on next. He'll probably give you a Whitesboro one too. But we'll for sure we'll get a couple your way. We've had some nice guests throughout the year. Obviously, living in Rome, we have a following here too, and you're a close friend as others. We have some surprise guests, and some of them show up in those hoodies on game day. So we'll make sure we get you something for Saturday.
Awesome. Well, Coach, I appreciate it. I don't know if we lost Nolan. Did we lose you? We still got you, Nolan.
No, I'm here.
You got any parting shots for Dad?
Got to go win it.
Nolan was one of our guys who would give the pep talks. The kids love listening to his pep talks. So
he doesn't hold any punches. He sits at the dinner table and tells you how it is, and you either like it or tell him to go to his room.
Most times it's to the room.
Well, Nolan, Coach Foz says that he's got a job for you in college, Nolan, when you're ready. So when you're ready, reach out to Coach Foz. You got a job lined up already.
All right.
Well, Coach, listen, congratulations. Always love having you on, and we'll do it again soon, and go win one next week.
I appreciate it. You do great things for this area in sports, so keep it up, and we appreciate you. Thanks, Rock.
Thanks, Coach. You got it.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
So that was Coach Kramer and Nolan Kramer. I wanted to surprise Coach and bring him on and get a question in for Dad, which I think is really cool to have him on the sidelines with Dad. That's kind of how I grew up, being on the sidelines with my dad. So always special to have your son with you along the way. So another coach who's got a son playing, I had the unfortunate the opportunity to coach against him. Is Coach Smith's son, who has a great career ahead of him too, and I know it's special for Coach to have one of his own coming up through the program. So let's bring Coach on now. I feel like it's a family affair. I get the Kramers on. I probably should have reached out to have your son on so we could have talked about how well he lit my team up.
Yeah, he would have liked to come on. He's out with his mom now, though.
So, Coach, congratulations, man. Another trip to the Section 3 finals and another year where we're going to be talking late in November. Congrats.
Thank you.
So, Coach, let's talk about this season. As we know, every season's a little bit different, and your season started, which seems like it was just yesterday, how fast high school football goes. You guys opened up your only loss of the season against CBA, who's more than likely, I'll say, going to win another sectional final and probably chase a state championship. But from where you guys were from that game against CBA to where you guys are now, how much have you guys improved?
I think we've improved drastically, and a lot of credit to the kid. You know, the past 2 seasons, we've been fortunate. We were fortunate to have some pretty dynamic teams and a lot of depth. And this year's been a little different. I know I said early in the summer everyone asks what your goal is, and that's to find your identity early. And I felt like this year it took us a little longer than usual. We had to move kids around, and we were being successful, but in the back of my head, like, I knew we needed to make some changes, and both offensively and defensively, we changed our whole defense, kind of mid-season, and it was like a 2 or 3 week process. We knew where we wanted to be and how we changed it slowly. And now we're there defensively, and then offensively, obviously we made some changes at the quarterback position to get kids in the right position. So this year's been a little different. We had to, we figured out our identity, and then we had to, put in place a process to slowly change and get to where we had to be. And now I think we're playing our best football.
And Coach, similar to Coach Kramer, he was hired back in 17, and I think you were hired back in 19, replaced a legend there in Whitesboro and Coach Shane. And, you look at your program now, and Whitesboro, as I said in my modified game at halftime when I was ripping our kids, is you're one of the programs that we want to be. We want to try to be the program like Whitesboro, where you guys are strong every year, strong foundation. And I looked at when you first got hired, and I take a look at the last 3 or 4 years and the success that you guys have had. You guys have just built off of it. But it starts with that pipeline of that youth level. So where you're at today to where you were when you first got hired is night and day difference.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I was calling the offense since 2009, and when you're an assistant coach, you don't have as much on your shoulders, you know what I mean? And then when you take over, there's certain things you want to change, and it is a little bit different, even though I had a lot of experience. But also, you got to have great kids, and it's high school football, and you dance with your date, and most of the schools in this area don't recruit. So, you're going to have good years and bad years, but you hope when you have those years that maybe you're not as talented. You can fall back on your culture and your tradition and your work ethic and preparation and still be competitive. And obviously, fortunately, the past 3 or 4 years, we've had some really talented groups, but there were some changes we made when I took over. We got really involved with the youth program, and I was just talking to a coach about this the other day. The biggest change we made was the way we practice and prepare. Our practices are well planned. Our coaches spend a lot of time. My defensive coordinator probably for a 2-hour practice spends 4 hours the night before preparing for a 2-hour practice, making all the look team cards. Every coach gets a script. So there's a lot that goes into this this thing if you're going to do it right. But the way we practice, the amount of film we watch with our kids before practice, I think that's led to our success.
And Coach, ESM, you guys will play in the finals. What challenges do they bring for you guys?
Yeah, so they're a team that has gotten dramatically better as the year went on. They lost to Carthage, which was kind of a lopsided game, but the score isn't really what the game was. Against us, we opened up 21-0 pretty early in the first half, and then I don't know when the last time we've been shut out in a half, but they shut us out in the second half, and they present some problems. They're mid-level athletes on defense, and the back end they're very good. Offensively, they have very good skill position, and they do what they do, and they do it well. So it's definitely going to be a challenge. It's not easy to play or beat a good team twice, and we're preparing extremely hard as we speak. And when I get off here with you, we're going to go back at it. But it's going to be a tough game, and we'll be ready, though.
Coach, talk about Connor McDonald. How special! And you've had so many good special players over the years, and you got more than just Connor. I know as a coach, you'd say it takes a whole team. But I want to talk about how special of a kid is he?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for 17 years, and I've had a lot of good athletes. You know what I mean? Great kids. I mean, you go back to the Mike Sullivans, Steve Allmans, Mike Bunel, and then more recently, obviously Kyle and Memphis, Tony Dorzinski, guys like that. And I just feel like Connor is like all of them combined. He can flat out do it all. We line him up all over the field. He's had games where he's had 10, 11 targets, and then against Carthage, the first time he had 27 carries. So at the end of the day, he's going to touch the football on offense. He's an IQ kid. He knows every position. You tell him or show him one thing once, and he gets it. And then on defense, he if he's on the field defensively, it's a problem for the offense. And again, he's an IQ kid. He's always in the right spot. He's only a junior. He's a high level Division I recruit, and the interest is starting to pick up. But he's going to come out of Whitesboro as being one of the best to ever play here.
Coach, and I always focus on the offense, but you got a couple linebackers that are pretty good too, that have played really well for you throughout the season with Joe and Jordan. Talk about those two.
Yeah, so we lost some big time linebackers last year, and that kind of was a question mark for us. But Jaden Bias, Joe Dare, and Nicholas Gaspa, they have played phenomenal. They've really filled some big shoes, and they are just relentless and old school tough guys, and they are flying around. And yeah, everyone always talks about our offense, but really our defense. I mean, our first group against Carthage led up 2 first downs, I think. Last game, the first game against Carthage, they let up under 80 yards before we pulled them. So our defense is putting our offense in great positions, and our offense is doing well, but obviously we're not scoring 50, 60 points at will. So we need our defense to put us in great spots, and I think our special teams are playing great. But those 3 linebackers have been key to our success, as well as our frontage, and our secondary is very good. So we have a very good defense. We changed it a lot. The kids have adapted, and the changes we made, I think, fit our team well.
Coach, how much pressure do you feel? Maybe you don't feel the pressure, but as being the head coach at Whitesboro with all that rich tradition, I feel like Whitesboro, when the season starts, you're expected really to be playing for a sectional, title, and then even beyond with, being in the state championship game, you've been there. Do you feel any extra pressure that you have to get there every year because it is Whitesboro and the tradition that you've been part of for so long?
Yeah, I don't know if it's pressure. It's definitely an expectation to be there every year. We work extremely hard and we prepare for this moment. But we talk to our kids that the bar is way up here. And if we don't reach the bar, the season's not a success. Like we're not happy with just being there. And I think that's because of the way this program has been built from when Coach Shane and his staff was here to when we took over. Is we try to do things right, try to do things 12 months a year. And I think the way we prepare like every game is a state championship game. We talk to the kids that it's not about who we play, it's about how we play. And there might be a little bit of pressure. I mean, I put pressure on myself 100% and my staff to make sure we're doing things right. But, in my younger days when I was coaching, I was probably a little bit more cocky. Maybe the mentality of we're going to go out there and win. And I'll never forget in 2011 against ESM, I think we scored 15 touchdowns in the scrimmage against ESM in 2011, 15-0. And we were going for our third sectional championship, much like we are this year. And they held us to 0 points, and I was the offensive coordinator. And that was probably one of our better teams. And from that day on, I said, I'll never take a team for granted, and I'll never lose a game because we're not prepared. So there's a lot of pressure. But I think when you prepare correctly and you prepare extremely hard, you don't feel the pressure as much more, because if you can go on the field on a Friday night and know that your team is the most prepared team, know that you did everything in your power to get your team prepared, I think there's not any more pressure. I think you start feeling pressure when you have questions and the kickoff has happened and you're still unsure if you went over everything. So we work extremely hard to prepare so we don't feel that pressure.
Coach, how special it is. I know I was just asking Coach Kramer this. I mean, he's got his son with him, and I was a coach's kid too and was coached with my dad and grew up on a football field. How special is it for you to have it be a family affair there in Whitesboro?
Oh, it's very special. I got 3 boys, all play football. 2 of them will be on the sideline with me on Friday night. My middle child, Cameron, is finally old enough to make the ride, and I can trust him on the sideline, I think. But, it's special. Carter's been with me since he was pretty much born, and he loves the game. He's an IQ kid. He understands the game, and it's just cool to watch him grow, And it's also tough because I missed a lot of his game. I didn't get to go watch your great game. My wife,
Yep.
fortunately, I have a great wife who supports everything I do, but she was texting me and sending me every clip of the game. So I'm in practice and I'm looking at the game, and so it is tough because you do miss out on a lot of things. And that's just kind of the way it's going to be. But luckily, I have a supportive family, a mother and father-in-law, a mother and a father that do a lot for us, and then obviously my wife. But yeah, that's you got to have a support to do this thing the right way. Like we don't just show up on August 20th and then finish and put the stuff away the next year. There's weight room stuff involved in the off season. We're all summer, a lot of people are going on vacation and stuff like that. And we're on the football field. So it is a family affair. You have to have support. And I do have support from my family. And it's special to have my boys around it. And they enjoy it.
I will say this, Coach. I'm a Rome guy, but the Whitesboro community's been really, really good to me. And I know you have as well. And I was asking Jim this. I might be able to get away with this more with Jim because he's a Rome guy here coaching at New Hartford. But I asked Coach, I said, Coach, I got to get a New Hartford shirt to support you guys. And now I got to say, I got to get a Whitesboro shirt, but I can't say it too loud because Coach Nicola may kick me off the coaching staff and get rid of me. But I got to get a Whitesboro shirt. I feel like I'm part of the Whitesboro family too here. The guys are your community's been so good to me, Coach, and you have as well. And I can't thank you enough for always jumping on with me, but I might have to sneak in a shirt.
Yeah, we'll get you what you need. You know what I think? I think times have changed a little bit. Like, there's no one cheering more for Jim, obviously his wife and his kids. But when he's playing, like, I'm cheering for him. And yes, us, New Hartford and Whitesboro had that rival, but I want to see other people that do it the right way be successful. And I got home from my game, and I couldn't wait to talk to Jim about his. And when he finally called me at night, I had already watched the fourth quarter on my phone. So, I'm his biggest fan. I want them to be successful. We obviously went to college together. But I just want to support people that do it the right way. And I want to see, we're not in the same league. And, a lot of our kids work out with their kids. Jim and I talk 3 times, 4 times a week. And, we're rivals with New Hartford, but at the end of the day, I want to see him get it done. And it's the same with Rome. We all have a good relationship. And if we're going to face each other, then we're going to go at it. But after that, I respect them, and I want to see everyone around here be successful.
Well, Coach, I won't look ahead, but take care of next week, and we'll get you guys back on throughout the fall here. As hopefully you guys both can punch your ticket and keep playing here late into the season. So as always, I appreciate you, and I know we'll talk again soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Coach. Thank you.
Yep.
So that was Whitesboro head coach Curtis Schmidt. And I do mean this when I say this. There's so many local coaches in this area from all sports that have been really good to me. And those Coach Kramer and Coach Schmidt are just 2 of them. Coach Strife over at Proctor has been really good to me. Coach Briggs at Helm Patton's been really good to me. All those guys, Coach Fiorini at Westmoreland's been really good to me as well. And there's so many more. And I've built over the last probably 10 years of doing this show that started on the radio. Has carried over now into a podcast, which I love because I can do it on my own time. But I think the relationships that I've built in this area from the sports side in all sports, field hockey, soccer, girls basketball, boys basketball is really cool. And when I mean this from the bottom of my heart is the Whitesboro community has been really good to me. And growing up, Coach Hoke was a Whitesboro guy. Rome Whitesboro when I was younger. Was always the game with Proctor. And here we are, fast forward all these years later, and it's like, if Rome's not playing Whitesboro, I pull for Coach Schmidt all the time. Same with Coach Kramer and all those guys, where it's really a big community of guys to do it the right way. So I can't thank those 2 guys particularly enough for coming on here and talking some high school football with me. I will have RFA field hockey. As I said, they'll play today at noon against Mamaroneck at noon. I believe that game is at VVS. I will have Coach on. I was going to reach out to her. I knew they were playing this today, so I didn't want to bother her, Mackenzie, but I will have her on to talk about their season as they chase not only a state championship, but an undefeated state championship that has not been done since my sister played on that Rome Free Academy team that finished unbeaten in state champs. So best of luck to Mackenzie. I'll be reaching out for her to come on and talk about her season. We'll talk more with these guys when they win. I'm not going to jinx them. When they win next week, we'll have them on again to talk about their next matchup. But as a head coach, it's week to week. So I appreciate everybody tuning in today. It was great to be back behind the mic to talk the Mohawk Valley Sportswatch. I'll let you know when the next episode of Inside Utica University Football Podcast with Coach Faziano will be scheduled for next week. So I'll let you know more on that. Continue to follow me across all social media platforms. And thanks for tuning in today to The Rock Pile is where dreams become reality.